What if I told you that the land of Syria, known today for its turmoil and conflict, has been a key player in the Bible for thousands of years? Syria's story is not merely one of ancient civilizations and modern-day struggles. It is deeply interwoven with biblical prophecy, from its foundational ties to Abraham to its future role in the grand narrative of the end times. As the world watches the unfolding changes in Syria today, its spiritual and geopolitical significance in both history and prophecy becomes clearer. In this video, we'll dive deep into the shocking truths about Syria's biblical roots, explore its connections with Israel, and uncover what the Bible says about its destiny. We'll also examine recent developments in Syria and their possible alignment with these ancient prophecies. By the end, you'll have a new perspective on this ancient land and its place in God's eternal plan. Syria, known in the Bible as Aram, occupies a central role in the Old Testament. This ancient land, with Damascus as its capital, stood as both a neighbor and a significant force interacting with Israel. The shared history of these nations is deeply intertwined, shaping biblical narratives of conflict, alliance, prophecy, and eventual redemption. The origins of Syria trace back to Aram, the grandson of Shem, one of Noah's sons. As recorded in Genesis 10:22 through 23, this ancestry places Syria among the Semitic nations, sharing cultural and linguistic ties with Israel and other neighboring peoples. Despite frequent conflicts, these connections highlight the close familial bonds between the Arameans and the Israelites. This relationship is further underscored by Abraham's choice to send his servant to Aram Naharaim, Haran, to find a wife for his son Isaac. Genesis 24:4. This act signifies the enduring ties between the two groups, laying a foundation for their intertwined destinies throughout biblical history. Syria's role in the Bible alternated between that of an ally and an adversary to Israel. For instance, King David established a peaceful relationship with Toi, the king of Hamath, a city in Aram, 2 Samuel 8:9 through 10. This alliance demonstrated the potential for unity when mutual interests aligned. However, such peace was often fleeting, as seen in the repeated conflicts led by kings like Ben-Hadad, who waged wars against Israel. One notable confrontation during King Ahab's reign, 1 Kings 20, reflects how these battles extended beyond politics, involving spiritual dimensions tied to idolatry and divine opposition. The prophets of the Old Testament delivered stern warnings about Syria's future. The prophet Amos condemned Damascus for its acts of brutality, foretelling the destruction of its royal house, Amos 1:3-5. Similarly, Isaiah prophesied that Damascus would become a heap of ruins, Isaiah 17:1, signifying the consequences of Syria's enmity with Israel. These judgments underscored God's sovereignty over all nations, affirming that no kingdom could escape divine justice. However, the Bible does not leave Syria's story in despair. Amidst these warnings, there are glimmers of hope and redemption. In Isaiah 19:23-25, a vision emerges of a future where Egypt, Assyria, including parts of modern Syria, and Israel unite in worship, forming a blessing on the earth. This prophecy encapsulates the recurring biblical theme of judgment followed by restoration, demonstrating that even nations historically opposed to Israel are not beyond God's mercy and plans for reconciliation. While the Old Testament presents Syria as a land of alliances, conflicts, and prophecy, the New Testament highlights its profound role in the early spread of Christianity. From Damascus to Antioch, Syria became a cornerstone for shaping the foundations of faith and expanding its reach throughout the Roman Empire. Damascus holds a special place in Christian history as the site of one of the most transformative moments. In Acts 9, Saul of Tarsus, who later became Paul the Apostle, was en route to Damascus to persecute Christians when he encountered the risen Jesus Christ. This divine vision temporarily blinded him, but marked a pivotal turning point in his life. His transformation from a zealous persecutor to a devoted apostle underscores the spiritual significance of Damascus, symbolizing redemption and divine intervention. The city stands as a testament to the power of grace to completely change a person's life direction. Similarly, Antioch, another major Syrian city, played a foundational role in the growth of Christianity. Situated along the Orontes River, Antioch was one of the largest and most influential cities of the Roman Empire. It was here, according to Acts 11:26, that the followers of Jesus were first called Christians. Beyond its historical prominence, Antioch served as the launching pad for Paul's missionary journeys, enabling the gospel to spread across Asia Minor and beyond. The city's diverse and multi-ethnic church exemplified the breaking down of barriers between Jews and Gentiles, showcasing the inclusivity and universality of the Christian message. Syria also nurtured some of the earliest Christian communities, many of which flourished despite persecution. Churches in cities like Damascus and Antioch became centers for worship, teaching, and missionary activity. These communities played a crucial role in preserving and propagating the teachings of Jesus, ensuring the survival and growth of Christianity during its formative years. The New Testament's accounts of Syria reveal several profound themes. Paul's transformation on the road to Damascus demonstrates the power of divine grace and redemption. The unity found in Antioch's multi-ethnic church highlights the breaking down of cultural and social barriers within the body of Christ. Finally, the resilience of Syria's Christian communities underscores the strength of faith in the face of adversity, offering a timeless lesson on the enduring power of belief. Syria's significance in the Bible extends far beyond its historical and early Christian roles. Its ancient cities, alliances, and conflicts are intricately woven into prophetic visions, describing the culmination of God's plan for humanity. Today, Syria's ongoing turmoil ignites renewed interest in these prophecies, as many wonder if current events align with the Bible's descriptions of the end times. One of the most striking prophecies about Syria is found in Isaiah 17:1, which declares, "See, Damascus will no longer be a city, but will become a heap of ruins." Damascus, one of the world's oldest continuously inhabited cities, has endured numerous devastations throughout history, including invasions by the Syrians and Babylonians. However, many theologians argue that this prophecy may not have been fully realized, suggesting that it could refer to future events in the last days. The modern devastation in Damascus, driven by civil war and regional conflicts, has led scholars and prophecy enthusiasts to question whether these current events are precursors to the ultimate fulfillment of Isaiah's words. Another prophetic narrative tied to Syria's potential role is the war of Gog and Magog, described in Ezekiel 38-39. This apocalyptic vision depicts a coalition of nations led by Gog of Magog, attacking Israel in the end times. While Syria is not explicitly named in this prophecy, its geographical proximity to Israel and its alliances with nations such as Iran and Russia suggest a possible involvement. Today, Syria's partnerships with these nations, along with its strategic position, closely align with the conditions described in Ezekiel's prophecy. These connections have fueled speculation about Syria's role in this climactic conflict, where God is prophesied to intervene, protecting Israel and bringing judgment upon its enemies. The Bible's apocalyptic imagery continues in Revelation 16:12-16, which describes the gathering of nations for the final battle at Armageddon. Although Syria is not directly mentioned, its location near Israel and its historic ties to the surrounding nations place it at the center of these prophetic events. Syria's geopolitical instability, alliances, and involvement in regional tensions make it a likely candidate for a significant role in this ultimate confrontation. Despite the grim predictions of judgment, the Bible offers a message of hope and restoration for Syria. In Isaiah 19:23-25, a vision emerges of Egypt, Assyria, which includes much of modern-day Syria, and Israel worshipping together in unity under God's reign. This prophecy speaks of reconciliation and redemption, where former enemies become partners in worship and blessings to the world. Such a vision starkly contrasts with Syria's current struggles, reminding us that God's ultimate plan includes restoration, even for nations with turbulent histories. Syria, with its tumultuous history, not only plays a significant role in biblical events and prophecies, but also holds a symbolic place in the spiritual battle that unfolds before the end times. In the Bible, many nations represent more than just physical entities. They often symbolize the spiritual conflict between the forces of good and evil. Syria, historically seen as an adversary to Israel and an embodiment of opposition to God's will, may also represent the ongoing spiritual struggles that humanity faces in the final chapters of history. The spiritual warfare described in biblical prophecy, especially in the context of the nations surrounding Israel, suggests that the battles these countries face are not solely political or military, but are deeply rooted in a cosmic conflict. Syria's involvement in both ancient conflicts and modern struggles can be viewed as a reflection of the larger spiritual battle that affects all of humanity. The Bible tells us that the forces of darkness are always at war with God's people, and the geopolitical tensions seen in Syria today could be a modern manifestation of this age-old battle. While Syria has historically opposed Israel, often acting as a conduit for external powers that sought to undermine God's chosen people, the Bible also offers a hopeful message. The prophetic literature, especially passages from books like Isaiah and Ezekiel, illustrates that the struggle between good and evil is not a battle without resolution. While Syria's land and people have often stood in opposition to God's purposes, the Bible speaks of an ultimate restoration where nations once in conflict will be reconciled. In Isaiah 19:23-25, God reveals a future where Syria, alongside Egypt and Israel, will worship the Lord in unity, transforming former enemies into partners in divine worship. This imagery of spiritual redemption is crucial in understanding Syria's role in biblical prophecy. The future of Syria, despite its current challenges, is not entirely bleak. The promise of reconciliation and peace for even the most troubled nations reminds us that God's plan for the world includes not just judgment, but also the possibility of redemption and restoration. Just as the Bible describes the transformation of individuals, it also speaks of the spiritual transformation of entire nations, showing that the ultimate victory will be God's, and all people, including those who have been enemies of God, will one day bow before him in worship. Furthermore, Syria's geopolitical instability, combined with its historical and strategic significance, places it in the heart of the modern spiritual battle. Today, the nation stands as a battleground not only for political ideologies, but for spiritual ideologies as well. This conflict, deeply rooted in religious extremism, ideological division, and foreign intervention, mirrors the spiritual warfare foretold in the Bible. As nations like Iran and Russia, both key players in the Syrian conflict, align with the country, it echoes the alliances described in the prophetic books, where the forces of evil unite against God's plan for Israel and the world. The Bible reminds us that these alliances are temporary, and God's divine intervention will ultimately bring judgment to those who oppose His will. However, the overarching theme that Syria's role illustrates is hope amid chaos. Despite the wars, destruction, and spiritual opposition, God's purpose remains unchanged. He promises a future in which all nations, even those that have stood in opposition to His people, will be reconciled. This is a call for believers to understand the spiritual dimension of the conflict and to have faith in the eventual restoration of all things. Syria, as it faces modern challenges, mirrors the spiritual struggles that are taking place on a global scale. The battles fought today, both on the ground and in the spiritual realm, point to the ongoing tension that will culminate in the final victory of God's kingdom. And through all of this, Syria's redemption, along with that of many other nations, remains a beacon of hope for those who believe in God's promises for ultimate peace and reconciliation. As we examine Syria's journey through the lens of the Bible, it becomes evident that this ancient land plays a profound role in God's overarching plan for humanity. From its historical ties with the patriarchs of Israel to its central position in early Christianity, Syria has been intricately woven into the fabric of biblical narratives. Today, Syria's ongoing struggles and geopolitical significance bring renewed attention to the prophetic visions that mention its lands and cities. The destruction of Damascus, as foretold in Isaiah 17, the alliances described in Ezekiel 38-39, and the apocalyptic imagery of Revelation 16 serve as reminders of Syria's place in the culmination of biblical prophecy. While these events often carry tones of judgment and conflict, the Bible also offers a powerful vision of hope. In Isaiah 19, God reveals a future where Egypt, Assyria, modern-day Syria, and Israel will unite in worship, becoming a blessing to the world. This prophecy encapsulates the broader redemptive narrative of the Bible, where even nations historically opposed to God's people are invited into His plan of reconciliation. It is a vision of restoration and peace, demonstrating that no nation is beyond the reach of God's mercy. Syria's story reminds us of key spiritual truths: the sovereignty of God over history, the resilience of faith in the face of adversity, and the promise of redemption even in the midst of chaos. As we reflect on Syria's past and present, we are encouraged to watch the unfolding of God's plans with faith and hope, trusting that His ultimate purpose is one of restoration for all nations.